Hello, Radiant Soul, and welcome to episode 16 of the Devotional Drip, where we are going to be exploring embodying the compassionate witness and devotional steward within, without, above, and below. The Devotional Drip is a free higher self embodiment and personal development coaching series for creatives, leaders, visionaries, and light workers. The intention of this series is to support you in igniting your higher self connection, embodying your higher self expression, and inspiring a spiritual self care practice across the altars of your personal and professional life so that you can meet the all encompassing call of your divine purpose embodied in your peace, power, and higher self stewardship. My name is Sarah. I'm a higher self embodiment doula, multi passionate artist, entrepreneur, and coach and consultant, offering somatic, artful, playful, and sensual portals into self care, self healing, self leadership, spiritual awakening, and higher self expression and higher self embodiment. Lots of things going on in the honeypot. Typically, we go live every Monday for the weekly drip at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and a replay is always sent out to the newsletter coven. But this week happens to be a special timing of the drip because that Aries new moon came with the drama and the weather patterns. And my flight was delayed back home a couple of days. So I was on a plane during the usual time of the devotional drip. But we're here today. We're doing a little happy hour Wednesday energy. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from, whether you're catching this live or on the replay. I love to know where the earth angels are gridded throughout the world. We really do have a global network here in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Coven. So that is so exciting. And if you have not yet, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter Coven, which is linked below so that you're notified when we go live and when exclusive offers drop. I also send a replay out with somatic journal prompts, movement prompts, and a corresponding practice playlist with each episode of the drip to support you in integrating, digesting, and applying the unique higher self codes and wisdom that comes forward for you. As always, the tone of this space is your wisdom is first. So I'm going to put some things on the altar and use your breath, use your senses, use your body, and feel into what is for you and what is not for you. Not everything is going to resonate with you. Not everything is going to be for everybody. So please use your discernment and please always put your wisdom first. This is a conversation, and allow this space to also be a space that you practice letting your own intuition and wisdom codes lead. So that's just a little tone setting. And then if you haven't, please subscribe to the Blood, Bone, and Honey YouTube channel. We are going to be gearing up for a lot of really fun projects and visions getting birthed into the space over this next year. My husband and I just manifested this new home where we're going to be doing a lot of projects around temple keeping and adornment. And I was just discussing with him this morning how cool it would be to share some of those projects here on YouTube. And I happen to also be a filmmaker. So I plan to bring more video content to this channel in addition to the devotional drip. So be sure to subscribe so you're notified when we go live and when new videos drop. All right. I think that is all of our housekeeping for today. Oh, one last thing. I am doing a special enrollment right now for Higher Self Power Hour readings. These are Oracle energy readings, and they are also embodiment coaching sessions. So 1 hour of us going in to support you in walking into your next season, feeling higher self expressed and clear around how to meet any blocks coming up on your path as portals to your power. If you want to find out more about this session and claim your spot, you can DM me clarity, and I'll get back to you with some details details on that. I'm also currently enrolling and taking application, for private mentorship. So if you're curious about applying and enrolling in one of my private mentorship programs, please feel free to shoot me an email at Sarah with an H at bloodboneandhoney.com, and I will be sure to send you an invitation, and we'll get you on the calendar and explore what's coming up, what you're working with, what your goals are, what your visions are across the altars of your personal and professional life. This is an all-encompassing full life metamorphosis private mentorship program. So if that sounds yummy, shoot me an email and we'll get you that information. All right, jumping on in. Today's topic, episode 16. I'm so excited. I'm like chomping at the bit. Let's take a collective breath together and just ground some of this fiery Aries energy. And if you're tuning in live, please feel free to drop in, say hello, maybe even share the energy that you're tuning in with. Perhaps something you'd like to place on the altar, you're totally welcome to do so. And if you're tuning in on the replay, please feel free to do the same. And let's just start with this breath. How does that sound? So I'm getting one hand to the heart and then one hand either to the belly, or you can actually just place that palm down on your thigh and make physical contact between your hands and your body. And as you inhale, you can feel the rise of your chest and your hand. And as you exhale, you can just send the breath, send the energy down and out. Inhaling, filling up the belly, filling up the chest, filling up the heart with breath, letting the fingers swell. Exhale, sending the breath down, perhaps sending it down through that hand that's placed on your thigh. Maybe even massaging and rubbing out your thigh and your legs a little bit. Maybe even massaging and rubbing out your heart. Let's just bring a little bit of like self-touch and breath. Maybe moving your hands around your body, just saying hello. Just saying hello. It's been a high intensity week. So let's just take a moment to just pet ourselves. Ah, how nice. Breathing and just sweetly touching. You can even practice like brushing off any old energy perhaps you've been carrying from this week, or anything that didn't quite get sent down from that new moon. Maybe inhaling and sending the arms up and stretching out and opening the heart. Inviting the body and the breath into this conversation. Let's not task ourselves with intaking any more information and not bringing the breath and the body into the conversation. That's a fast track to overstimulation. That's a fast track to that front brain feeling really overheated. So a little self-touch, a little breath, a little sending the energy down. Fire is our friend. We just want to know what we're doing when we're working with it. So if we're taming our dragons and we're working with fire and we want to have more consciousness around our energy, which was a reoccurring theme coming up in the question box that I posted on my stories over the last couple of days. I've just been tuning in, asking on Instagram, what's coming up right now? What did this new moon spark? What's on the altar right now? And there's big energy around this need to be deeply compassionate with ourselves in the process of transformation. Knowing that it is an art, knowing that it is a process. And when we're exploring process, we really have to like set aside the perfectionist programming, because we're not then going to be available to perhaps the unique ways to perceive what's in front of us, which is actually one of our cards. The unique ways to perceive what's in front of us versus how we always meet this block, or how we've met this energy before, or, oh my gosh, this is happening again. What the fuck? Like that energy, I'm getting a frustration. there's such a need to be so deeply compassionate with ourselves and have our own backs so deeply that we're quite literally activating this consciousness of the compassionate witness and the devotional steward within us. It's like we give them the steering wheel. It's not the one that's always got the mic. It's not the conductor that's always running the show. If we're going through a paradigm shift, there's going to be a changing of the roles, if you will. And we're seeing that happening externally on a global scale, right? And so that's also happening internally. There's this internal shift. So perhaps this aspect or expression of your consciousness that was once the leader is now taking a step back, and there are these new qualities, these new habits, these new goals, these new visions, these new gifts, this new identity, these new self concepts, these new beliefs that want to emerge, but it can feel like there's almost this tug of war happening between the old and the new reality. Let me know in the comments if that's resonating. This isn't even in my notes. This is just like coming through to support the setting of the scene. Um, because with birth is going to come death. And this is a big moment of birth. Not only is it the spring in the Northern Hemisphere, which was one of our cards this week, but there's sort of this springtime energy happening um, on a consciousness level in general. New ideas, new visions, new beliefs, new themes, new ways of doing and being, new systems that will need to be created, or perhaps are already needing to be created because the way things were once going, happening, occurring, like it's almost like all the old systems are broken. Um, for example, like let's use the metaphor of like a computer, right? Like if you don't update that software, that system software, then all of the other programs are going to run really slowly. And so the theme that's emerging is this overall general reset and reboot. And there is this energy, an ancient proverb is coming forward, which is let go or be dragged. And I don't like the energy of, I think the language is a little harsh. But there is like this truth that wants to come forward with it, which is like, you're going to have to surrender anyway. So you might as well do it consciously. And that's why these two allies are coming forward, these two expressions of your consciousness that you can activate as a form of higher self embodiment, which is embodying the compassionate witness and devotional steward within. So, in your own relationship with yourself, without, in your relationship with life, above, when things are going good, and below, when things are feeling a little underground and a little underworldy. It's this unconditionality. It's this no matter what is happening, you're activating the compassionate witness and you're activating the devotional steward. Let me know how that's landing. Are we understanding the compassionate witness and the devotional steward as almost like members of the inner committee that you're now assigning the role of you're going to lead and you're going to be the conductor now, and the voices of fear, the voices of anxiety, any voice or expression of your consciousness that has been fueled by that energy up until this point, those versions are taking a step down, so that these other parts of you can step up and emerge. So I'm seeing like a changing of the guards energy. Do you feel like you're going through that right now? If you do, how is that changing of the guards energy manifesting for you? What aspects of you are asking for more airtime, for more mic time, for more uh expression? What aspects of you are asking to be expressed? That's who the mic is going to get handed to. Okay, so now I'm going to tap into my notes. 15 minutes in, 5:15. Yes. Also 555 has been coming up so much, and I'm not a numerologist, but I do track patterns and energy, and I really deeply have a relationship with numbers. And the way that I track 555 coming up is around change. Like there's this big energy of like the changing of the guards, like things are changing. Um, and so if the five has been coming up for you, I know the twos have been coming up for people. We had a 1, 2, 3, 4 in the question box yesterday. Also, the threes have been coming up. It's sort of like 1 through 5 has been coming up. So that 1 through 5 phase of like getting started up until like the first sort of like 5 is like ding, ding, and then we're going to change our direction, right? So there's this starting to the moment of change happening. So this to me is sort of signaling that everyone listening is going to be at a different stage of their personal transformation journey, their spiritual awakening journey, their higher self embodiment journey. And it's like I'm seeing everyone at these different gates and portals and passageways of initiation. And it's not about like, there's no like ahead or behind. It's just like for you in your own caterpillar to butterfly journey. If you were to track that for yourself, where are you? Are you just recognizing, like, oh, I'm a caterpillar and I'm getting ready to create the nest, to create this transformation? Or are you that big caterpillar that's all full and ready to start spinning this chrysalis? Are you in the chrysalis? Are you in the slop? Like the caterpillar's organs quite literally dissolve into nothingness except a couple. And then out of these things called liminal discs, the wings grow. Are your wings growing? Are you coming out of the chrysalis? Are you letting your wings dry out in the sun? Are you flying right now? On that journey of transformation, where are you right now? Drop in the comments and let me know, either on the live or on the replay. If you were to track as your own compassionate witness, looking through the lens of compassion, not through the lens of judgment, not through the lens of competition and comparison, but through the lens of being a compassionate witness, where would you say you are within that caterpillar to butterfly journey? There's no right or wrong answer. This is just a fun little self check-in. So let me know in the comments. I'm so curious to know. Thank you, Kate, for tracking the numbers. We have 515-5555-1117-1008. 1008 is the last 4 numbers of my phone number. If you guess the first 3, I'll give you a free oracle reading. Okay. So let me get to my notes here. So if you saw my Instagram post earlier this week at Blood, Bone, and Honey, if you're not yet tuned in to the Instagram coven, we were talking about how the Aries new moon came with the drama. She said this is not a dress rehearsal. And the theme of the show right now is personal transformation and higher self-awakening, just across the board. I have the honor of quite literally having the job of visiting the altars of different high priestesses and heart-based leaders and creatives and visionaries and light workers, and really seeing where they're at in their personal transformation, embodiment, spiritual awakening, and higher self-becoming journey. And the theme is personal transformation and higher self-awakening. Everyone, no matter if this is the first day you're ever hearing the term higher self, or you've been doing this for years, everyone is going through a higher self awakening portal right now. And like I said, the portal is going to look different for all of us. I didn't pull this card for the drip, but this is a card I've pulled with pretty much like, I would say like 90% of my private clients in the last week or two is this passage card. The passage card and or the cave card. And I want to just show you, I want you to look at this and in your own visionary higher self perception, sort of let this, I'm actually being guided to show it this way. Let this tell a story to you. What does this mean to you? Where have you come from? Where are you going? Did you just move through a portal? Are you getting ready to move through a portal? In the process of moving through the portal, are you taking time? I did a whole episode on this a couple weeks ago. Are you taking time to recharge in the cave? The goddess Amaterasu comes up, who also we talked about on a past drip, who is retreated in the cave until she hears laughter outside of the cave. I think this was on Emerging from the Cave, that episode. So if this resonates, go back to that episode. And this is true for all episodes of the devotional drip. Like these drips exist outside of time and space. And this is like a living library of higher self-embodiment and personal transformation codes. So in this, I'm not going to go too much into it right now because there's like pretty much a whole episode dedicated to this. But Amaterasu's in the cave. She hears her spirit guides outside of the cave. They're laughing and making all this commotion. And it's her curiosity that brings her out of the cave to see what's up. And then her guides have held a mirror up for her. And in the mirror, she sees this vision of this goddess. And she's like, oh my gosh, who is this goddess? And then she recognizes that it's her. But she could only come out of the cave. She could only self-recognize. We could say this for people in stages of sort of the sloppiness of the chrysalis. Like the butterfly is a self-realized state. And in order to activate in order to really complete the cycle of transformation, compassion is required. One of the first things we're going to touch on around how to activate compassion is curiosity. Amaterasu was curious. She was curious about the laughter. She was curious about the joy. She was curious about perhaps what was possible that she wasn't seeing, and she needed to shift her perception, her perspective. To do personal transformation and to be in the muck with a mucked up mind is an excruciating process. You can transform and also be clear. You can be in the muck and also have clarity of mind. And if you've never heard that before, welcome. Because just because things may feel messy internally or externally, that doesn't mean that you still can't resource your higher self in the process. You can always resource that vision and the capacity to be the compassionate witness. So I put up a question box in my story asking folks what was coming up for them at this time thematically overall. And in addition to this higher self-awakening piece, what's coming up is the need for new commitments, new goals, new routines, new devotions, which makes sense. There's sort of like a cycle ending and a cycle beginning energy, not only with this Aries season and this new moon and this astrological new year portal that we just walked through. The first sign of the zodiac, we're nicely planted right there right now. So not only is that happening, but there really is this energy of taking inventory and stock over the last 2 years and really witnessing through the eyes of compassion, what just happened and what did I just go through? There's an energy of assessing. And what I've been hearing a lot is people feeling disconnected from their goals, like maybe goals that once felt resonant that no longer feel resonant, or this need to update. Again, it's that like system update energy. So, new commitments, new goals, new routines, and new devotions that are in alignment with the version of yourself that you're ready to embody. And then knowing that the process of birth and birthing a more higher self-expression version of yourself that is more fulfilled, more full of your own light, also means that there's going to be a death of the old self. And I came out with no apologies with the Black and the Lilith pendant today. Also, we got a little third eye perception action. An activation, a simultaneous block and portal I've tracked in the third eye is this sort of gripping to illusion. And this illusion attached specifically in terms of personal transformation to our power. Like what illusions that are rooted in certain self-beliefs and old self-concepts are ready to disintegrate? What are you ready to detach from in terms of ways that you have seen yourself and life up until this point? And how are you ready to shift that perspective and vision? If you want the rebirth, you're going to have to walk through the portal of the simultaneous death. And in our death phobic, hyper masculine, control focus culture, surrender can feel really tender and unfamiliar. We have forgotten that just like birth is a celebration, so is death, because it means that there is this new energy and this new potential to create something different. but there is this letting go that needs to happen. So I'm going to, there are quite a few allies and metaphors coming forward to support you through this passage and time of transformation, but I'm going to break this down into two archetypes that came through, not as cards, but as avatars to try on, as you're navigating what may feel like the slop of the chrysalis, especially if you're sort of in that mid-transformation period. Or you're sort of getting ready to emerge, or you're getting ready to start. So really across the board, these are going to be two stewards that are going to help. These are going to be two avatars, two allies that are going to help you steward yourself forward, from a place of empowerment, from a place of possibility. Because this work is hard enough. There's enough resistance. There's enough mountains and consciousness to climb. We don't need to make this harder on ourselves. My intention always in offering support is to support you in stepping into a more easeful process. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to weave in some other oracle cards that came forward as supplementary allies. And there was some repeating energy as well from the Instagram poll that we did on Monday. If you haven't seen that 1-minute reading, you can go check that out on Blood, Bone, and Honey. But we had a repeating card that feels really pertinent to this. So let's get into it. I want to start out by saying transformation and emerging are tender processes and require a compassionate steadfastness, which is why we're going to be working with the compassionate witness and the devotional steward within us as qualities that we have access to in all moments, even and especially when it doesn't feel like it, and activate through our sovereignty to support you through whatever period of transformation you're going through right now, whatever part of that process you find yourself in. So the first archetype to help us out is the compassionate witness. The compassionate witness leads with curiosity versus bossiness, busyness, stubbornness, or defeat. Perception card. You are supported in all ways, always. It just may require a perspective shift to sense it, see it, and feel it in your bones. So perhaps in this moment, taking a breath, and it's going to require an openness. If you're like, well, there's no way I could actually change my perception, blah, blah. What my coach says to this is drop the smarty pants energy and like open up to your pleasure and possibility. The members of the Blood, Bone, and Honey coven are high priestesses. So we can get in our own way with the like, but I've been here before, but I've done it before, but I've already tried it that way, but it's just not working. But oh my gosh, it's just not working. But oh my gosh, it's just not working. And oh my gosh, this is just so frustrating. Perspective, perception shift. You're supported in all ways, always. It just may require a perspective or perception shift to sense it, see it, and feel it in your bones. Being attached to an old illusion is going to feel like the texture of disempowerment. The way that you know you have changed your perception and your perspective to click in to more alignment with possibility and potential is that it'll feel more open. You'll feel expansive. It'll feel like there are options. So the invitation here is to switch from a place of feeling like perhaps there are no options, or I've tried everything, or I'm feeling defeated, or you're maybe bossing yourself around, or perhaps being busy instead of getting curious, trying to keep doing things the same way, even though they're just not working and the signs and the symbols are showing up and it keeps not working, but you're just going anyways. It's really dropping that and allowing a perspective or a perception shift to take place. But you have to sense it, you have to taste it, you have to feel it, you have to be engaged with it. This is like to sense and feel into your third eye. Don't activate your vision without connecting to your breath and your body. Bring in some of that self-touch, bring in the breath, and activate a somatic like intimacy and openness and receptivity to receive. We'll talk more about this in a little bit, how to activate that. So, to embody the compassionate witness is to know that you aren't your thoughts, you're the one who has your thoughts. So, you can bring your meditation practice into your daily life and start to notice your inner dialogue, and how expansive or limiting it feels, thought by thought, word by word. And as you're tracking that, as you're noticing, as you're being a compassionate witness to your own perhaps looping thoughts, looping stories, looping phrases, looping beliefs, looping ideas, because that those are like codes that are almost like then encoding in the space and continuing to inform your reality. If we're going system upgrade, in order to break a cycle, it needs to be disrupted. So you're disrupting it with the compassionate witness, because you're activating your sovereignty around, I'm not my thoughts, I'm the one who has my thoughts. So, does this thought right now feel expansive, or does this thought feel restrictive? And just practice shifting the dial towards expansion. Do that for 30 days in a row and watch your life change. Let me know how it goes. It's not about seeing the bright side. It's about seeing through the eyes of compassion. And in order to do that, we first need to get curious. And again, as my coach says, not be such a smarty pants about it. So we can stay open beyond the ego's idea. That's just a cute way to say, like, the ego might be driving the show, confirmation bias might be driving the show, there might be old stories and programs driving the show. So, to stay open, to stay in a state of openness and receptivity and witnessing, is to be in that compassionate witness state. And I'll tell you what, you're going to get a lot more. You're going to get a lot more with honey than you do with vinegar. Like, the compassionate aspect of the witnessing is going to get you a lot more information to work with. That's what's going to allow that block to start to feel more malleable, more like a portal, more like something you can stick your hand through and penetrate. Because whatever's happening in your life right now, whoever needs to hear this, you're bigger than what's happening right now. You are your higher self, and you are bigger than whatever's happening right now. So sometimes you got to get like up and get around it and give it a little growl. And if like Aries season is doing like a dragon fire in your face thing, then when's the last time you dragon fired right back and like let yourself let out a sacred scream and yelp on behalf of what's dying and what's emerging? Like, I'm getting like, get your skin, get your muscle, get your breath, get your mind in the game energy. This is also true for me. I'm like deeply going through this activation myself right now. So I'm speaking this from my body, and quite literally that texture of like embodying the dragon, embodying our higher selves, blowing fire back, like get bigger than whatever's in front of you. Okay. It's not about seeing the bright side. We got this. It's about seeing through the eyes of compassion. And in order to do that, we have to get curious. So, really get curious. Really listen. If in activating the divine masculine principle, you're getting big and you're blowing that energy, and you're creating the container and you're creating space in that feminine, divine feminine principle of receptivity, listen, listen, listen in. What is coming forward? Let your body talk and tell you where you're at. Sometimes you'll find that the mind, this is the bossy piece, the mind is bossing the body around, telling the body what's happening. That's so representative of this patriarchal paradigm that's crumbling right now. The mind doing this and acting like it's better than the body. And it's not that the body now needs to take over the mind. It's not about like a patriarchal versus matriarchal consciousness. It's about an integration. It's about an integration, because beyond the gendered aspect that we can sometimes enter within this conversation, which I really try to pull back and stay away from, and just talk about it as energetic principles, there is our own inner divine feminine and inner divine masculine integration that's happening as an expression of higher self embodiment. There's a totality. We could say the yin and the yang, the light and the dark. You need your shadow self. Your shadow self is one of your greatest mentors for embodying your higher self. So let go of denial and bossing as a representation of what you also want to see deconstructed at a collective level. Practice it energetically within your own system and watch how the willingness to listen versus tell yourself what's happening opens something up for you. Drop the labels, break the boxes open, um, and listen beyond what you've ever known before. Number two, for activating the compassionate witness, understanding, understanding, understanding why, understanding how, understanding when, understanding whatever is unfolding as a part of supporting you in stepping into your highest potential. It is a choice to perceive your life from that lens. And to do that is not to bypass, it's actually to have a more holistic understanding of whatever is coming forward on your path so that you can use what's there. It's like really activating that creatrix inner muse energy I was talking about on Instagram this morning. Like, this is all your paint, honey. Don't deny any of the colors. Maybe even that, like, I'm getting maybe even that mucky, gross brown, like dirt, like in the soil, wormy. I'm like literally seeing like worms and death and decay and like under the ground and like swampy. It's like an olive green. It almost looks like bile and vomit. It's like, it's really intense. And that like energy that we do, that like snapback energy is so indicative of the programming around death, surrender, release. So, can you make love to the muckiness? Like, the lotus grows from that place. So, the body may be like, and the mind may be like, this isn't safe. I'm in trouble. Everything feels like mush. But the higher self knows that that's where the fertility is. That's where the mycelium are. That's where the codes get exchanged. So don't shy away from the soil. Don't shy away from the mucky, mossy, underground, wormy space. Like, it's mud season up here in upstate New York. Like, I'm just not expecting for there not to be mud. I'm just going to put my boots on because when I go walk in the woods, it's going to be muddy. So, are you setting yourself up for understanding if you're transforming that the chrysalis is part of it? I had a call with a private client last week who was describing this energy of feeling like they were in a downward spiral. And I was like, are you in a downward spiral, or are you actually just in the devolve? Are you in the devolution? Are you in the underground soil potential compost death energy that is quite literally necessary for the birth? Like, it doesn't happen from nowhere. The lotus grows from the mud. So trust the mud, trust the muck, and understand it. This is number two around activating the compassionate witness. Understand that this is an answer to your prayer, which may feel confronting to receive. So again, receive this as you will, take what resonates, leave the rest. But how can you shift your perception to understand whatever's showing up right now as part of your prayer to be more higher self embodied and higher self expressed, and choose to understand versus give your energetic currency to the thought and belief and really sneaky one that can get in there, which is feeling forgotten by God, by the divine, by the universe, by your higher self, by the tribe. Understand that your prayers are being received and your manifestations are on their way. Faith is cultivated in the darkness of the soil. Cultivation takes time. Patience is your pathway to prosperity. And in the meantime, Where can you activate more pleasure? How can you activate more pleasure? Through activating your capacity to understand, through activating your capacity to breathe and trust the cosmic contractions as a part of birthing the you and the life that you've been praying for. Sometimes the answered prayer isn't going to look like the way you thought it was going to look, but lack of physical evidence is not evidence that your higher self, God, Goddess, or the angels have forgotten you. What is dying so that more of your light can come alive? It's the to me versus for me activation. And again, we don't go from this is happening to me to this is happening for me in moments when it doesn't make sense. So again, apply this where it resonates and makes sense. Use your discernment. But the reason that we do that isn't to bypass any pain that might be coming up. It's to just activate and shift your perception to be more in touch with the energy of empowerment and potential. Another card that came up for us that came up twice, or that came up on the 1 hour read, not 1 hour reading. Excuse me. Let me take a drink of water. Let's all do that. Okay. So, a card that came up on our Instagram 1 minute reading that also came up for this reading is weather. This has been a huge theme. I miss my plane. I know so many people got their like travel plans rearranged. Um, but even more than just like the actual physical weather, there's a lot of like energetic weather patterns popping off right now. Um, and so understanding why it's necessary will support you in trusting the clearing, trusting the weather patterns, trusting the sunshine as much as you trust the rain, because they're both necessary for growth. If it's sunny all the time, those plants are going to die. So the tears, the water, the emotion, some of what may even feel like disruption is part of the watering that needs to happen. So trust these weather patterns. And if you'd like, drop in the comments. Let me know what weather patterns are coming up for you. What potential storms have you been navigating? As I said on Instagram, after the storm comes a rainbow, and the storm is a part of the rainbow, right? So it's that divine feminine, divine masculine principle, yin and yang, water and fire, like trusting both of the activations, underground, above ground. Um, um, I'm getting like heaven and earth and the converging point of both of those and the way that they're working together to create something beautiful. So let there be a coming together in activating your understanding. So, first one, in activating the compassionate witness, we have curiosity, staying curious about what's happening. Second one, understanding what's happening, activating your capacity to trust and breathe into any sort of contraction that feels like it's happening, knowing that the contraction is there to then propel and spring forward the opening. So open, close, light, dark, above ground, underground, emerge, come back to the chrysalis, emerge, come back to the chrysalis, emerge, come back to the chrysalis, over and over again, non-linearly, working in tandem. Inhale, exhale. Is this making sense? Third part for activating the compassionate witness: compassion versus judgment. Transformation is tender and things may feel gooey, but what I first want to point to here is being mindful of your self talk as a form of compassion as well. Be mindful of what you're labeling as messy. That was like a reoccurring theme. People coming forward and sharing, like, I just feel like there's so much transforming right now. It feels really vulnerable. I feel really tender. I feel really messy. There was some themes around like showing up in relationship in that state. Um, and So there's a couple of things around this, but first, what I want to say is be mindful of your language. Language is powerful. Our words are spells. So how are you describing what it is that you're currently moving through, both to yourself and to other people that you're in relationship with in the world? You can call it messy if you'd like, if that feels empowering, or you could just call it something in process. And this is something I feel so deeply resonant around as an artist, because when you're in the process of creating something, yeah, it is messy, but it's also just the process. So perhaps if you're going to use language like messy, like remove the charge from it. Remove the charge and remove the judgment. This is, again, we're activating the compassion piece of the compassionate witness. So this is having compassion for your process versus judgment around your process. How would it feel to just switch it up and be like, instead of calling it messy, or there was also some verbiage and language around like weakness and sort of sensing into where there's weakness. Instead of calling it weakness, what if we then just refer to it as a space that's potential and right for strength building? And before we build strength, what I know from my mind body centering yoga training with Nina B of centering life is there's an integration, there's a grounding, and then there's a stability, a stabilizing that needs to happen before we can actually build the strength. So if you're still in an integration process, don't expect yourself to stand up and be all up in your strength. Like, just let yourself integrate. Just let it be the chrysalis and just be like, hey, I'm in the chrysalis right now. This is tender. Use to understand what it is that you want, and to understand what it is that you need right now in this current state, is to be in touch with your boundaries, is to be in touch with your own self-containment. And then to show up with a level of self-awareness around that is going to spark a level of like empowerment within you, because you're going to feel like, okay, even though things feel a little chrysalis sloppy right now, I also know that this is just part of the process of becoming even more of my higher self. And this is a necessary passage or portal that I must walk through. Like the cave, the chrysalis is a necessary part of my emergence. So I'm going to trust the weather patterns as they come up. I'm going to trust the storms, the thunderstorms where the roof gets ripped off and the thing happens over here and it all gets blown away, and you look and you have to assess the damage, like trusting that also as a part of the clearing. Because chances are removing the pressure of going from messy to not messy, as if there's another way to be when you're in the process of transformation, is going to open up a whole lot. Because then you're not comparing yourself or holding yourself to an unrealistic standard. If we use our energy in holding ourselves to an unrealistic standard, all the energy is going there. So it can't go to the compassion. It can't go to the witnessing piece. To witness takes a lot of energy. If you're going to commit to being your own compassionate witness, it is a path, and it's going to require your consciousness as your currency. So the mess, the slop, the stuff, the pile of death, the pile of bones, the underground, mucky, mossy, muddy, greenish type energy color. I don't know why that's coming through so specifically. Um, it's part of the transformation. It's like the vomiting and the purging that sometimes accompanies the plant medicine ceremonies, or any kind of detoxification process for that matter. It's all going to bubble up and gas off one way or another. So you can either be your own friend through that, or you can work against yourself. Expect it to be uncomfortable. Like, expect the discomfort. Just like if you were going to do some new exercises at the gym and you were going to pump out some crunches, and like you hadn't activated the muscles in your abdomen in a while, like there's going to be a burn. But that burn is actually part of creating that strength that you're cultivating. And also, what I want to say about the strength piece, is, again, the integration, the grounding, and the stabilizing comes first. So before going into the crunches, before going into the push-ups and getting really activated, be in that curious assessment process, be in that understanding process. Get curious, understand what's going on, so then you can activate your compassion. And from a place of compassion, you're then creating your game plan, which we're also going to talk about in a minute. So is that making sense? How is that feeling? Drop in the comments on the live or on the replay. What's resonating? What's feeling like it's hitting the spot? What's feeling unclear that you'd perhaps like some more clarification around? I'll try to get to everyone that I can as you drop your little wisdom nuggets in. Of course, no pressure, only if it feels good, but I'm always available to be in a conversation during these drips. So please feel free to drop in. And yeah, the last piece I want to say on this compassion activation, around activating the compassionate witness specifically, is compassion, vulnerability, and courage are all muscles. So practice the voice of compassion in your daily self-talk. Little like good jobs and way to goes. And okay, how could I make this easier for myself right now? If you're going to walk into a situation that feels high sensation and high charge, then how are you resourcing yourself before you enter that space? How are you setting yourself up to have a good experience? Knowing that you can also do the planning and also still might not go as you planned, but at least you then connected to your body and breath and activated your capacity to really be in a state of self intimacy before walking into an exchange with another. Okay, ready for the next one? This is the last one around activating the compassionate witness, and then we're going to go on to the devotional steward. So, fourth piece in activating the compassionate witness within, without, above, and below is acceptance for what is as a part of opening to what could be. Like putting compost in the soil has now received an infusion of nutrients and energy from what was let go when you're in the process of acceptance. So, what are you ready to accept and let go to create space for your metamorphosis to actually take place? Acceptance creates space. Acceptance creates space when you're holding on, when you're gripping, when you're having a hard time, really like allowing what is now to just be what it is. That gripping is going to take up some of your energetic currency when you actually really need that energy for your perception shift around what could be. So, acceptance, you don't have to accept it because that's what good people do. We need to accept things in order to be these good yogis and these good spiritual people and these good light workers. Like, it's not like that. It's like acceptance is offered. For you to create a more peaceful experience and relationship with your own heart, and therefore your relationship with all beings. I want to say, like, it's much more delicious than we give it credit for. Like, acceptance is work, right? Because acceptance is like forgiveness, it's compassion, it's like you really have to like go all in on that. But acceptance brings you to a new place. Acceptance creates space. Gripping, controlling is just going to create more of the old again. So if you're wanting the new to come in, acceptance is going to be a part of that passageway. Accepting the weather patterns. Accepting the chrysalis state, accepting the cave. And accepting, actually, what I'm getting is that you're actually powerful enough to shift your perception. Like, acceptance is also about accepting how powerful you are, accepting how multidimensional you are, accepting perhaps how psychic you are, accepting that maybe you're more gifted, ready, available than you've been giving yourself credit for. The not readiness addiction and consciousness is played and preyed upon by a culture full of ivory towers that says you need to go through all of these activations and initiations and get all these certificates and all this shit before you can. That's a lie. of patriarchy. That's a lie of white supremacy. Um, and that's a lie that upholds a matrix that will have you earning and proving your worth instead of understanding that it already is done. And acceptance is about accepting that perhaps you're more powerful than you've even allowed yourself to sense into before. And what would that mean? And where are you loyal? There was some stuff coming up for people too around not being seen. Where is there still a loyalty and maybe some unconscious agreements to that? To you not being seen for who you actually are. What do you gain by playing small? This is some deep wisdom of my coach, Des Davids of the Rich Witch Life. Like, where are you benefiting from upholding old agreements? And really getting clear about that. How do you benefit from not being seen? How do you benefit from self-identifying as messy? What parts of your self-concept up until this point are fed by that? And what would it take to shed that concept and step into a new one? Acceptance is recognition, and it's what happens right before you can engage in more conscious alchemy with whatever is being placed at your altar right now to be met as a compassionate witness. Acceptance is recognition, and it's what happens right before you can engage in and meet whatever's on your altar right now from a perspective, from a perception that you are an alchemist, you are a creatrix. So you can transform what's in front of you, even if it's mucky and muddy and covered in dirt and blood. Like, you're a magician. So great. This is just more paint to use. Like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, the path of higher self awakening will require you to surrender, and sometimes it will feel like things are being taken from you. But what if physical reality was just rearranging itself for you? I'm tasting like some bitterness on my tongue. There's some bitterness that can come up with that. It's like, oh, but can it just not? Can it just be easier? And what I want to say is when you actually surrender, it becomes easier. It becomes easier. But the surrender is hard. And so it can do this thing where it's like, well, the surrender is so hard. There's no way there's going to be more ease on the other side of this. But what I want to say is there is. Because the gripping, the ruminating, the fixing, the trying to uphold and keep alive what is trying to die takes up so much energy. You're like scrunching your feet into the old shoes and trying to shove the old jacket on, and everything feels too tight. So, acceptance creates space. There was this moment with my friend Hannah last week. I was visiting her in Florida, and there was like this bag of kale. I've referenced this so many times this week, and it's so simple, but it's so good. There was this bag of kale, and there was some pieces that were rotten in the bag, and she was gonna like use it to make dinner, and she was just like, "Oh well." And it's like kind of that energy, like acceptance can kind of feel like that. Acceptance doesn't need to be gung ho enthusiastic. Like, don't put the pressure on yourself to perform acceptance, to perform understanding, to perform compassion. Like, to work with these codes is also to be willing to be in a process of understanding, like, what does acceptance look like for you? What does compassion look like for you? What does curiosity look like for you? What does your own compassionate witness look like for you? And sometimes acceptance is like well, I thought that was going to turn out differently. And like a little laugh, twerk it off and move on, not because, and I also don't want to say like, take all the time you need. There's also no rushing. There's also no need to like move through the part of the slop that feels extra tender and high charge. Like, maybe you just need to hang out there and get bathed for a while. And that's that integration piece. That's that not tasking yourself with like any sort of rushing from the slop to the wings. It's like, The slap to the wings is a process. It takes time. Uh, Father Chronos and time has also been coming in as its own activation recently. Um, and in addition to things happening in divine timing, I feel like I wrote this somewhere else in my notes, so we might go back to this. But in addition to trusting things happening in divine timing, what was coming through this morning when I was reading all of your answers from the question box is trusting the process too. Like, can you trust the divine process? And again, in our death phobic culture, the sort of deathy, sloppy, muddy, underground, darker, swampier energy has a lot of judgment attached to it, because we don't trust it, because we've been programmed not to trust it. Um, because of many reasons that I'm like, we're not opening that portal right now. On another trip, we will do that. But reclaim your connection, reclaim your relationship with death, reclaim your relationship with the slop, reclaim your relationship with surrender. What does surrender look like for you? These things aren't a one size fits all kind of deal, and neither is personal transformation. And that's why I call it the art of transformation, because personal transformation, because like everyone's painting isn't going to look the same. I'm getting like, when you show up for like the wine and painting night and maybe everyone's like working with the same still life, or I guess that could just like happen in a drawing class. I'm like, anyone want to like go drink wine and go paint? Like it's 2011. That sounds like so much fun. But like if there was a still life, like everyone is going to have a different interpretation of that. So like there's sort of like a unique vibe coming through, and like trust your unique path. Comparison is the thief of joy. These simple phrases that have so much resonance, but truly do not compare your journey of higher self embodiment, personal transformation, spiritual awakening, entrepreneurship, leadership, motherhood, partnership, marriage, parenthood, self care, like education, schooling, studentry. Like, don't compare your process to anyone else's process. Activate radical authority and compassionate witness around your unique process and get really proud about it. This is my process. This is my journey. This is my life. This is the way that I do it. Yeah. Get into it. Get into it. Yeah. I also want to say this, while surrender can be sweet, it's not always comfy. It's not always comfortable, and can be particularly tender and prickly for survivors of any kind of trauma that has conditioned the body, heart, and mind to grip and control in order to secure safety. And I say that as a complex trauma survivor at a particular intersection um, of surrendering the gripping, surrendering the control. I'm also a Capricorn sun, so I really like to be in my conductor role. So to surrender that and open to the witness, and sometimes I got a hand. My bossy pants energy, she gets shit done. I love her. I love my Capricorn sun. She's bougie, she's bossy. It's a vibe. But the compassionate witness hasn't gotten the mic as many times in my life, because at one point I wasn't even safe to like take that much time to assess my surroundings. I just had to move, act, and get out of harm's way. And if you resonate with that on any level, whether it be, little t or big T trauma, like we don't need to weigh trauma on a scale. Like everyone's story and everything is valid. Whatever your journey is valid. What happened to you is valid. I believe you. Whoever needs to hear that today, I believe you. I believe you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I believe you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Speak that into your own heart. Like, I believe you. I'm here for you. I see you. Wow, you really navigated some rough waters. Maybe, wow, we're really navigating some rough waters right now, but I see you. I believe you, and I've got this. Practice even that voice of the compassionate witness. What does it vibrationally sound like and feel like as resonance leaving your mouth to speak into your being from the texture of the compassionate witness? Start to teach your body that being spoken to that way is an option. We need to reteach and retrain ourselves around tenderness, process, rest, stillness, trust, faith, unique needs, meeting needs. Because if you need life to go as planned in order to feel supported, we talked about this on Instagram this week, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and you're making your faith conditional. Faith is unconditional. No matter what storms, no matter what rainbows, your faith remains the same. The storms will come, but there's nothing quite like the rainbow that follows. Like the rainbow that follows a thunderstorm, though. You know? You know? And the contrast between those two things is part of what makes the arrival of the rainbow so sweet. So, what if the darker the storm, the brighter the rainbow? And what if you met all things in your life from that perception, from that perspective? Okay. We got Kate saying 100. Des, you better speak, Sarah. I'm so glad it's resonating. Rebecca, the magic. Yes, queen. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're going to go into the second archetype to support your journey, the devotional steward. So we had the compassionate witness. Now we're activating the devotional steward. The devotional steward leads with containment, container, and a plan of action. The devotional steward has a map. One of the allies coming forward to support us in understanding this containment, container, plan of action sort of map piece is the dragonfly. The dragonfly points to the quality of our mind. So also this mind, third eye perception versus a higher self perception versus like, I want to say like old illusion, attachment to old illusion. I want to say updated programming and paradigm versus old paradigm. The dragonfly comes through to invite you to calm the mind. This is that integration energy. This is that laying on the floor, connecting to the breath, getting still, and remembering that when you stop gripping them, the bones will float. And when you stop the looping thoughts, you disrupt the pattern and you create space for new thoughts, new agreements, new visions, new ideas. The dragonfly says, calm the mind so the light of wisdom can shine through. How do we do this? We need to focus on the breath. Take a breath. Maybe again, touching the body as you do. I want to just invite you to be in this practice this week of kind of like brushing off the old energy. Like anytime you need to take a breath and just kind of like brush off the old. And then when you feel clear, like paint on the new energy. So brushing off the old and then painting on the new energy. Brushing off the old. Using your exhale to send energy out, sending out the fingertips, getting the toes involved, sending it out the feet, brushing the legs, touching the body. Oh, right, I have a body. Oh, right, I'm not just a mind. Oh, right, I want more clarity in the mind. Oh, right, I need to connect to my body and my breath. So brushing off the old, it's like you're in that chrysalis and you are just letting it dissolve. And then you're inhaling in the new and paint on the new. What's it like to just touch yourself and infuse any part of you? If you're feeling some like particular overheat in the front brain, favorite thing to do ever in the world is palm the eyes and breathe into the hands, breathe into the palms. Shine some light into that front brain. Inhaling into some beautiful, I'm getting specifically white light here. Inhaling into some white light to clear. Exhaling, receiving white light in the front brain. Let's do 2 more. Inhaling white light into the front brain. Exhaling white light into the front brain. Inhaling white light, sending it to all parts of the brain. Exhaling white light, sending it to all parts of the brain. Just like we had that indigo blue color coming up on that perception card, now I'm going to invite you to inhale into an indigo blue light. Receive it in your brain and your third eye as water, as nutrients, as light. Exhaling, washing the brain with this indigo light. 2 more. Inhaling into this indigo light. Letting it wash the brain. Exhaling, receiving this indigo light. Last one, really practice receiving the breath. Inhale, receiving the breath. Exhaling, washing with an indigo light. Keeping the eyes closed, you can bring the palms to touch in prayer. And bring the tops of your fingertips in prayer down between the brow point. And just give yourself a little moment of prayer at that third eye. Opening up to new perception, new vision, new ideas, new ways of seeing and sensing your life from this moment forward. And when you're ready, you can exhale and bring your palms to your heart. Relax the jaw, relax the shoulders, allow the shoulder blades to pour down the back. And release any gripping at the brow point, at the hairline, between the eyes, the right side of the jaw, the left side of the jaw. Taking a breath, inhaling and exhaling, and relaxing your tongue. Feeling space between your chin and your heart, creating space in the throat. And really let those shoulders melt down, 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 space between the shoulders and the ears. We just created some space. So keep your eyes closed if you'd like. When you're ready, you can blink them open and slowly come back into the space and just be really gentle as you return. It's like, oh, okay, here I am back in the room. There's my breath. Here's my body. Feel the connection points between where your body is meeting the earth. And really breathe and sink into that. Ground this energy in the space we just created in the mind and the brain down into the lower parts of the body. Let the pelvis be heavy. And take a breath. And come back into the space. So, breath is necessary for birth and death. Breath is necessary for birth and death. Don't expect a birthing person to give birth without breath. Breath is also how we open to this orgasmic life force energy. We have Isis coming forward as our last mentor for today, inviting us to remember that inside of the process of activating the devotional steward and activating this energy of containment, creating a container for our transformation, really receiving the aligned plan of action, which is to say the next best steps on our path. To activate that first part of being a steward, Isis is reminding us that our pleasure is also a part of this conversation. So it's not this hyper masculine. Being a steward is not like, get it done, do it, create the plan, do the plan no matter what. It's like, no, there needs to be breath. There needs to be space. On this card, it says, sexual energy is sacred, and my pleasure is a prayer that brings me back to life. Sexual energy is life force energy. To activate that life force energy, we need to connect to our breath. So therefore, in creating this plan of action, in deciding what the next steps on your path are, in creating the container for this metamorphosis or transformation or this next leg of your journey to take place as a part of activating your devotional stewardship, bring pleasure and bring breath into the conversation. Metamorphosis is sensual. We can't totally plan it out. There's like this meeting of it, breath to breath, the meeting of life, breath to breath, the willingness piece, and then the vulnerability that's a part of that, and then the courage that's required for this like hero's journey, right? Move and let your breath lead you. Self-pleasure and let your breath lead you. Set goals and let your breath lead you. Inhale, smell, engage the senses, and make eye contact with your life. The energy of making love to your life is coming through as a part of like creating this container, as a part of creating your aligned plan of action for this next part of your journey, quarter two, this next season, however you want to relate to this. Allowing life to be the ceremony and making love to your life and witching while you work is going to be that ingredient that like brings out the pleasure tones is what I'm getting. So infusing even more pleasure and intention into every action as the spell. Someone asked about micro rituals in one of the question boxes, and what I want to offer around that is letting the breath lead, especially when this was particularly pertaining to not having like a lot of time. Like what do I do on those mornings where I'm rushing but I have things to do and I don't totally have time to land? Let the breath lead. Don't make any moves without taking a breath first, because when we're disconnected from our breath, overworking ensues. When we're connected to our breath, we're connected to potential energy because we're connected to the now moment. To be disconnected from your breath is to quite literally be disconnected from your presence, from the now moment. So connect to your breath and then ask your higher self, what needs to happen right now? What do I need today? What is a non-negotiable for me? And while I was cleaning the house today, I got home, I had to clean the house, prepare for this drip. I'm opening the card on a new program coming up. I'm enrolling new clients. Like there's a lot going on. I'm unpacking from traveling. And so I was like, all right, the dance practice is going to happen. You may have seen on Instagram, my daily dance and movement practice is going to happen while walking the dog and while cleaning the house. And you bet your ass, when I had to pick shit up off the floor, when I was sweeping, I was dropping it down to the floor, because I didn't have time to like go into my whole practice today, which I love creating space for. But realistically, life is moving right now and it's moving fast. And I don't know about you, but time feels like it's doing a whole new thing. So when things are moving really fast around you, my invitation is going to always be to slow down things within you. And how do we slow down? We connect to our breath. And that's what creates that brain heart coherence, which then is going to allow you to do things with more precision, make more accurate discernments. Um, if you've never watched it, I'm going to highly invite you to watch it because it's so good. Demon Slayer, there's this thing that he does. It's an anime series. It's so good. There's this thing that he does when he's like slaying the demons, where he'll like activate water breathing or like whatever the breathing is. And I love that as a metaphor for like when we're slaying some demons, when there's some shit coming up on the path, when things feel chaotic, connect to your breath. Isis is such an invitation to bring the ritual to every altar. So no matter what's happening, it's like, how can I infuse more ritual? How can I infuse more pleasure into sitting down to do my taxes if yours are late like mine, or cleaning my house, doing the spring cleaning? We're actually about to prepare for a big move. And so it's like, okay, moving is a whole thing. How can we make this a ritual? I just said to Max today, we're going to sit down and decide like what days and times on the calendar we're going to be doing things towards the move. When are we putting energy towards the move? Because we both have a lot going on right now. So that's what I want to offer around that. Let me know how that's resonating. We're just going to buzz through the last couple of pieces here on activating the devotional steward. So first we have containment, creating the container. You want to activate your connection to the devotional steward, create a container, create a plan of action, bring in the pleasure, bring in the breath, know that things will change, know ahead of time things are going to come up, know ahead of time you're going to need to adjust. So ahead of time, resource yourself with breath. Plan out your water breaks, plan out your snack breaks. Know what you need ahead of time, or get into a coaching container or some kind of supportive container where you can talk that out with someone and really figure out, what is it that I'm going to need for the next part of my journey? So I can do this in my body, so I can do this in my power, so I can move through the slop with the mud on my face and make a ritual pattern out of it. You know, it's like mud on the face can be like a symbol of messy, like we were talking about before, or it can be a symbol of like process and like that which is getting it. And it's like the like dirt lines and like the dirt line on the third eye and like the little butterfly drawn in the dirt on the side of the face. Like, make it ritual. Second piece of this is action as execution. Oh, excuse me. The second part of this is action as spell, and execution of that action as a part of path clearing. So if I'm getting like whatever is coming up right now that you need to do that you don't want to do, those things that feel the most sticky and tender and like high charge are the things that are holding most of your energy right now. So just get them done, and know that when you do, it's going to be a spell, and your execution is going to be part of creating space. We've all got shit like that right now. You are not alone. We've all got some shit right now that we got to clean up, take care of, that we don't want to do. It's mud season. So do it in the knowingness from the vibration that doing it, again, just like acceptance, is about creating space. Action as spell, execution as path clearing, especially the things you don't want to do, because the energy of not wanting is still energy going towards something. And when you're sending a lot of I said that exactly at 1 2 2 2 2 on our time. When you're sending energy towards the not wanting, you're actually also sending energy towards that manifestation, because where attention goes, energy flows. Or is that right? Yes. So if you're in the not wanting, pull that thing down, flip it and reverse it. Get in touch with what it is that you do want. That's part of that like plan of action. What are my goals? What are my new visions? What is it going to take for me to get there? So then your action, even if you're doing something you don't want to do, the action is still momentum towards what it is that you want to create. Next piece, completion as an initiation into a new energy. When you complete the little things, no matter how trivial they may seem on the list or how big they may seem, it's a part of an initiation into new energy coming in, because again, you've created the space. You've allowed the old to dissolve through action as the spell, execution as path clearing, completion as an initiation into the new energy. Last piece, celebration as a necessary part of portal opening and portal closing. So when you do the thing, when you get the thing done, when you start taking steps towards, even if it's just like, I've drank this much of my water and now I only have half of a jar to drink. I'm doing such a good job. It's that energy again of being your own cheerleader. The inner child will get real fucking pissed, especially if their creativity was a part of your visioning of what you've created. They're going to get real pissed off if you don't celebrate them. They're going to get real pissed off that like you did all the hard things on the adult to-do list and they didn't get to go to the playground, whatever that proverbial playground is for you. So notice where you're depriving yourself of celebration. This is one I have to really track for my own self as a result of my trauma. So celebration as a necessary part of portal opening and portal closing. Don't skip the celebration. Don't skip the water breaks. Don't skip the snack breaks. The sort of energy of overindulging tends to happen when we haven't planned out the snack breaks. We haven't clicked into the new rhythm. If you want to create new habits and new relationships with things in your life, you're going to have to disrupt the cycle that you're in right now. And the disruption is going to happen in the form of new agreements that in your devotional stewardship, you follow through on, activating your action as the spell and your execution as a part of clearing the way, creating the space. Birth requires breath, and birth also requires death. The energy is create the space, connect to your breath, trust what's happening, activate the compassionate witness, activate the devotional steward. These are aspects and expressions of your higher self-consciousness that you have access to right now in this moment, even if you've never practiced being a witness to your own thoughts before, or you haven't done it in a long time, or maybe you've never even worked with the energy of devotion, or maybe you've done it 1,000 times. What's available for you now that feels new? Let go of how it's been done, how things once were. I've heard a lot of like, I just want to get back to that version, or I just want to like do that thing again. And oh, right, there I am. And there's sort of this like, there's this like reaching back in order to go forward. What I want to invite you to do is like integrate that energy of the past, but don't go back. Let the past bring you forward and let your healing heal you backwards and forwards. So as you make these new agreements with yourself, there's going to be a past self that didn't have that agreement available to them. And part of activating that compassionate witness is really recognizing, wow, like this is new. So I'm going to let this be new, and I'm going to let myself be a student of this newness, and I'm going to bring all of these selves along with me, no part left behind. But we're not going back, we're only going forward. If you're finding yourself trying to do things how you used to do them and you're finding that it's no longer working, it's time for a new computer. I'm saying that because I literally need to go get a new computer this weekend. Like my computer quite literally can't handle like the files and the new programs I'm downloading. And so it's like upgrade the software, get the new computer. What does that look like for you? What does the energy of update resonate for you? And if you need support in harnessing some clarity around that and creating a plan of action around that and feeling really embodied around that, again, application and enrollment is open for private mentorship. And I also am offering for this week and next week, this will not be a forever thing, y'all. So if this sounds good, get in, because that portal is most certainly going to close. Power Hour, Higher Self, oracle card readings, and energy readings with a deep focus on embodiment coaching as well. for light workers, for leaders, for visionaries, for creatives, for entrepreneurs, for people who are in an active motion of creating something and they need support in harnessing some clarity around those next steps, around the container that needs to be created for this next level, for this transformation. And then I'll also be speaking into this a lot over the month of April. Blood, Bone, and Honey, we're focusing completely devoted to the art of personal transformation as a part of higher self-embodiment. There's going to be a lot of dancing, a lot of breathing, a lot of moving, a lot of grooving, a lot of alchemy, a lot of big creatrix energy. So if you're not following along on Instagram, join us at Blood, Bone, and Honey on Instagram. You can tap in and join the newsletter below, where many fun invitations are going to be going out this month around really engaging more physically in the process of personal transformation. Details on that to come. And in the meantime, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this time out of your day to spend with your own heart, to spend with your higher self, to spend in the energy of potential. To spend here with me and the other beings that are tuning here live and on the replay. I'm sending you so much love for your transformation. This work is so brave and courageous. Thank you for your willingness to shine and radiate. I deeply, 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 deeply honor your process. As always, take what felt really yummy and nourishing and soak in those codes. And whatever you want to leave here at this altar on this episode, you can drop it in the comments. Maybe just take a moment to write in your journal, like what you're leaving behind so that it's clear after this hour and a half, what you're now stepping into, what now feels possible for you. I love you, magical unicorn babes. We got some unicorns and hearts in the comments. And I'll see you on the gram this week. Many blessings. Replay will go out with somatic journal prompts and movement prompts. And DM me clarity for the one-on-one Power Hour Higher Self reading. Or you can email me for that as well. And then email Sarah with an H at bloodboneandhoney.com for application and enrollment into private mentorship. Namaste, radiant beings. Mwah. All that indigo light being sent out to you, dragonflies. Mwah. Love, love, love. Spread those wings. Spread those wings. Spread those wings. Bye, everyone.